What if I told you that the most powerful language on earth, spoken by over 1.5 billion people, the language of the internet, of Hollywood, of science, of pop music, is actually a fake? Not fake in the sense that it doesn't work. Obviously, it works spectacularly. But fake in the sense that it was never designed. It was assembled, borrowed, stolen, smashed together, and then handed to the world like it was perfectly natural. English is, linguistically speaking, a monster. A gorgeous, infuriating, wildly inconsistent monster built from the wreckage of a dozen other languages. And once you know the story of how it happened, you will never read a single word the same way again. To find the true beginning of English, you have to sail back roughly 1,600 years to the 5th century AD. The Western Roman Empire is crumbling. The legions that once kept order in the cold, rainy island province called Britannia have been recalled. The island is suddenly, dangerously undefended. Into that vacuum sailed 3 Germanic tribes from what is now northern Germany and Denmark: the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. They weren't tourists. They came with long boats, iron blades, and a guttural rhythmic language that would become the beating heart of English. The Celtic-speaking Britons who already lived there were pushed west into Wales, Cornwall, and Ireland. Their language survived, but only barely. The Germanic newcomers took the land, and they named it after themselves. The Angles called their new territory Anglerland, the land of the Angles. England. The language they spoke was what we now call Old English, or Anglo-Saxon. It sounds almost nothing like modern English. Listen to this opening line from the epic poem Beowulf, written in Old English. Huet, we Gardena in Giardagum, translated. Listen, we have heard of the glory of the Spear Danes' kings. And yet, buried inside that alien-sounding tongue are the bones of the words you use every single day. Man, with, siled, hus, eaten, dranken, man, wife, child, house, eat, drink. The simple, physical, everyday words for body parts, for family, for the earth beneath your feet. Those are Germanic. That is your oldest inheritance. Fast forward to the 8th and 9th centuries. England has barely settled into itself when a new threat appears from the north. The Vikings, Norse seafarers from Scandinavia, begin raiding the coastline. Then they start staying. Large swaths of northern and eastern England fall under Viking control, in a region that becomes known as the Danelaw. Now here is where something genuinely remarkable happened. The Anglo-Saxons and the Norse Vikings needed to talk to each other to trade, to negotiate, sometimes just to survive. And their two languages, both Germanic in origin, were just similar enough to be maddening, close but not quite. The solution? Simplify. Old English had a complex grammatical system with elaborate word endings called inflections that changed depending on how a word was used in a sentence. The Vikings, speaking Old Norse, had a different set of rules. When two groups share a language imperfectly, those fiddly endings tend to get dropped. English grammar became dramatically simpler during this period, and it never went back. But the Vikings didn't just simplify English, they enriched it. Hundreds of common, everyday English words come directly from Old Norse. Sky, skin, skull, knife, egg, window, husband, die, take, want, ugly. The word they, One of the most basic pronouns in the language is Norse. Old English didn't even have a word for they. The Norse gave it to us. Think about that next time you look up at the sky or scramble an egg for breakfast. You're speaking Viking. Now we arrive at the single most important date in the history of the English language, October 14th, 1066, the Battle of Hastings. The Norman Duke William, soon to be called the Conqueror, defeats the Anglo-Saxon King Harold. Harold takes an arrow. William takes the throne. And England is never the same again. The Normans were technically Vikings who had settled in northern France 2 centuries earlier, but by 1066 they spoke Old French, and they brought it with them like a conquering flag. Overnight, French became the language of the English court, the church, the law, the military, and the aristocracy. Old English was the language of the peasants. For roughly 300 years, England was functionally bilingual. The ruling class spoke French, the working class spoke English, and that social divide was burned directly into the vocabulary of the language. Here's the most elegant illustration of this. In the field, the Anglo-Saxon farmer raises a cow, Q in Old English. But when that cow arrives at the Norman lord's table, it becomes beef, from Old French birth. The farmer raises a sheep, Old English skeep, but the lord eats mutton, from French mouton. The farmer tends a pig, Old English pig, but the feast serves pork, from French pork. The people who touched the animals spoke Old English. The people who ate them spoke French. Language encoded an entire class system, and English, rather than choosing one or the other, simply kept both. That is why English today has twice the vocabulary of most European languages, and why your thesaurus is never empty. By the 1400s, English had absorbed its Germanic foundation, its Norse simplifications, and its French overlay. It was rich, messy, and abundant, but it still didn't sound like modern English. That transformation came through one of the strangest and most debated events in linguistic history, the Great Vowel Shift. Between roughly 1400 and 1700, the way English speakers pronounced their long vowels changed systematically and dramatically. The word that used to be pronounced moose became mouse. The word once said as fief became five. The word name was once pronounced closer to na-meh. Every vowel, in effect, shifted one step higher in the mouth. Linguists still debate why this happened. Some point to massive population shifts after the Black Death. Others point to the rise of London as a cultural centre, where social mobility meant people were constantly adjusting their speech to sound more prestigious. Whatever the cause, the Great Vowel Shift is the reason English spelling is a nightmare today. The spelling was largely fixed by early printing presses in the 1400s and 1500s, before the vowel shift was complete. So we kept the old spellings and changed the sounds. The word night used to be pronounced with every single letter. K, nicht. The K went silent. The GH went silent. But we kept writing them, because that's English. Obstinate and proud of it. The 16th through 19th centuries saw the British Empire stretch across the globe, and English travelled with it by force, by trade, and by colonization. To the Americas, to India, to Australia, to Africa, to the Caribbean. Each new contact brought new words flooding back into English. From Hindi, shampoo, jungle, bungalow, loot, thug. From Nahuatl, the Aztec language, chocolate, tomato, avocado, chili. From Arabic via trade, algebra, alcohol, sugar, cotton, sofa. From Malay, ketchup. The word ketchup is Malay. Enjoy that next time you reach for the bottle. By the 20th century, two forces supercharged English beyond anything history had seen before: American cultural dominance and the internet. Hollywood, rock and roll, NASA, Silicon Valley, the World Wide Web. Invented notably by a British man, but built and spread largely in American English. Today, English is the agreed upon lingua franca, the shared language of international science, aviation, diplomacy, and digital communication. Of the roughly 1.5 billion people who speak English, more than 1 billion of them learned it as a second language. English no longer belongs to England or America or any one people. It belongs to everyone who uses it. It belongs to you. So here we are, a language born in mud and migration, forged by Viking raiders, rewritten by French conquerors, twisted by centuries of shifting accents, and catapulted across the globe by empires and the internet. English is not pure. It was never pure. It is the ultimate remix. And that, perhaps, is precisely why it works. Languages don't succeed because they are elegant or logical. They succeed because people use them stubbornly, creatively, messily, across every border and generation. English succeeded because it was always willing to steal the best parts from wherever it could find them. And it is still doing it right now. Every meme, every new slang word, every term we coin for something in the world has never seen before. That's English, still evolving, still alive. Now I want to hear from you. Down in the comments, which loanword surprised you the most? Was it ketchup from Malay, algebra from Arabic, jungle from Hindi? Or did something else in this video completely rewrite what you thought you knew about the words you speak every single day? This has been The Stolen Tongue. Keep asking questions, keep speaking,